Hello and welcome to the 30k channel, a channel dedicated to games set in the HORUS Heresy. I'm your host, David Brains, and look who we have got. We have got Craig. Good morning.
Good morning.
And we have Dave. Good morning.
Good morning.
Now, what a treat this is. We've got some really nasty looking dark Mechanicum. They look like they'll take your finger off, I reckon.
They're going to try the best.
And we've got some Raven Guard. So really great to have Raven Guard. They're not a massively popular force. I think it's because, as you said, Craig, not many people like to paint black. So we've got some Raven Guard, which is really, really great. And we've got this really awesome looking Khorne-esque type Dark Mechanicum army.
Yes, thank you very much.
Looks great. I love the addition of the Brass Scorpion. You know, we talked this morning about it's such a cool model. We'll come on to that a little bit. We've got some fan rules for that, which we're going to talk about very soon. But first of all, we should thank Dave and Craig for coming down. They've both been in the car since 6:30 this morning.
Something like that.
Yeah, driven up from Wiltshire, so thank you so much for the effort you've put in. I really, really appreciate it to deliver this game for you guys today. So let's talk a little bit about it quickly. We've got 2,500 points, Dawn of War deployment, and we've gone for Onslaught.
Yep, that's right.
It's essentially to encourage a bit of movement because you've both got quite fast-moving forces, relatively. And don't ever forget, Onslaught is where you need to get in the opposite deployment zone. And we're playing Dawn of War as well because the board is quite the way I've built it is quite long rather than playing Dawn of Hammer and Anvil, so it works better Dawn of War. Now, gents, the rough idea I had in my head was that we're on Mars. We're at the start of the outbreak of the Heresy. The Mechanicum, loyal to the Emperor, are showing off their wares to a prospective Raven Guard buyer. You know, the Raven Guard have come to Mars, they want some ships, they want some armour, maybe some Mechanicum allies. So the Mechanicum have laid out these lovely vehicles they've got for their perusal, and they're kind of like a, I don't know, hard standing or parade ground, as it were. But the signal's been sent down from Horus. He's got, right, let's take over Marge. And your guys have just gone, they've opened the floodgates, they've been working on secret projects. Yep. And then all of a sudden, the K-Band style Mechanicum have walked forth to try and take over the loyalist Mechanicum. That's kind of what I had in my head this morning when I woke up.
So it works for me.
It works for me too. Sounds good, eh?
Yeah, sounds good.
Good. So we're going to be fighting over this kind of parade ground, hard standing with some Mechanicum vehicles. Yeah, and I guess you're there to either secure them or junk them, and you're there to help out.
Take them. Yeah. Probably more to eat the Raven Guard, but, yeah, probably, whichever works.
We'll make it work. It'll be fine. Dave, let's talk about your list firstly. Loads of infantry and some flyers. Love that.
Pretty much.
Classic Raven Guard kind of stuff.
Move fast. See what damage I can do.
Yeah. And you're running, is it Angel's Wrath?
Yeah, so everyone gets hit and run, basically. So they're all jump backers and deep strikers. So
yeah.
More definitely the only guys who are actually on foot, but they'll be in the Darkwing. Yeah, and the Fire Raptor there for a bit of heavy support. Yes. And obviously all jump pack Marines. Yeah,
it's really great to see infantry with jump packs on. We saw a few of those in the last game with the Heralds of Heresy. The Death Guard player brought more or less the same Rite of War, cool. And used that hit and run to good effect. So quite interesting to see how you get stuck in and then you can come out and then recharge again.
Exactly. As long as I remember to do it, but yeah, because there's a chaplain in there, so then they get their bonuses to hit again, and they recharge, and Raven Guard get Furious Charge when they charge. So it's advantageous for me to keep jumping in and out to try and get that +1 strength.
And the other thing as well is you've got a lot of melter bombs, haven't you? Which will really help with the with the monstrous creatures. So
yeah, we'll be fine.
Yeah, I think you'll be all right. You've got. It doesn't look like you've got a lot of firepower, but you have in the Scorpi Colossus. Is that what it's called?
Yep.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about this, Craig, and the rules we're using for the Scorpus.
So the Scorpii Colossus, or Brass Scorpion, we're using the 7th edition rules that Eric, when his 30k Panoply of War appendix, has put together, and it's kind of a Warhound level, super heavy, 9 hull points, armor 14 on the front. It's less firepower. It's got no strength D. It's an all quite short range and bad BS, but it's quite tasty in close combat.
Is it D3 plus 2 stomps?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
and it charges 3d6, so
there's
no staying away from it.
Yeah. But I guess the counter to that though is a little bit is that you've got nothing that will touch the Raven Guard flyers, have you?
Not at all.
Okay. So we're quite interesting, and we've seen fire raptors. We call them fraptors because they are so good. And that ability to pick loads of different targets in one turn is great. But you've also got some allies as well. Tell us about those.
Yeah, right. So the Sons of Minos, the Orphans of Minos, they're Black Shield Outlanders that are arriving to assist the Legio Cybernetica as they arrive. So the strike cruiser flies over. These guys, without any support, any equipment, jump out and try their best not to die on the way down. So they may look slow, but they all get to deep strike. Just please don't go wrong. That's to lose extra models.
and tell us a little bit about the history. So they were originally Iron Warriors, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So in the early days of the Crusade, the Iron Warriors and the Thousand Sons were on the planet of Minos, fighting an enemy that was super high psychic ability. Things started to go a bit wrong for the Thousand Sons. Bit of flesh change, casual Friday, and they kind of freaked out the Iron Warriors, who gunned down their own allies. So end of the war, a few Iron Warriors left standing. They go back to Perturabo. We won, boss. He's not very happy because he gunned down their allies. Get excommunicated, sent off out to Minos, and now they're the Orphans of Minos.
Fantastic. And a really unique unit, which Craig got at the front there, is you've got, is it a 10-man squad with las cutters?
There's 11 with las cutters.
11. Oh, God. Yeah. Might help you out, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But they do have bolt pistol close combat weapon.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So that's not too bad, at least. Silver Strike Initiative 4, but if they want to use those las cutters, Initiative 1 for some really high-powered, I think it's Strength 8, Strength 9, isn't it? AP 1 2.
Basically, close combat las cannons.
Yeah.
You strike last with one attack, and you hit on a 5.
Yeah, so they might work. We'll see how they play out. Fingers crossed. I'm really looking forward to this. We've got two really unique lists, and particularly in the Dark Mechanicum with the allies of the Black Shields. But then we've got a super high infantry Raven Guard force, which is fantastic, and the 2 flyers, one of each variant, which looks fantastic. So what we're going to do, we're going to go into the list, work out exactly what it comprises in these armies, and then we're going to go to the first turn and see how the game goes.
2,500 points of Legio Cybernetica Dark Mechanicum allied to Black Shield Marauders with the Outlanders discipline. Warlord trait for the Archmagus Dominos is Master of Mechanisms. The HQ choice for the Legio Cybernetica army is an Archmagus Dominos. He's got all of the defensive buffs and equipment, giving him toughness 6, 4 wounds, 2+ save and a 3+ invulnerable save. And he's armed with a photon thruster, a photon gauntlet and a power axe, making him quite deadly in a challenge. And we've got a chaplain who's leading the Outlanders force. He's armed with a jump pack, represented on the model by the grab shoots. He's got a long-handed power sword, representing a power axe, and he's got rad grenades and melter bombs. The troop choices for the Legio Cybernetica army are 2 units of Blood Slaughterers, aka Castellax. They're armed with 2 power blades each. They've got 2 flamers each, and a multi-melter. This is represented on the model by breathing flames at the enemy. Very cornate. So the troop choices for the Orphans of Minos allied detachment are 2 units of Black Shield Marauders. The first unit of 12 has got heavy chain blades, a sergeant with a power fist, and then the second unit is of a unit of 11 with las cutters and a sergeant with a power fist. Then the Low of the War for the Legio Cybernetica detachment is a Scorpius Colossi. It's worth bearing in mind this is slightly over the 25% points limit, but Dave begged for the opportunity to take it down.
2,500 points Raven Guard army, Rite of War, Angel's Wrath, led by a Praetor with the Warlord trait Paladin of Glory. The Raven Guard are led by a Praetor. He is equipped with Thunderhammer, Jump Back, Melter Bombs, Refractor Field, Digilasers, and Mastercrafting the Thunderhammer, of course. He is accompanied by a Chaplain who has, relatively simple, he's got a Jump Pack, Melter Bombs, and the Refractor Field, and he's got his power maul, because I'm old school. And the Librarian is also accompanying them, is equipped with Artificer Armor, he's got his Force Axe, Plasma Pistol, and he's Psychic Mastery level 1. The Librarian knows the psychic powers from Divination, so he's got the Primus Power, Prescience, and Forewarning. The Raven Guard Elite are the Apothecarian detachment, nice and simple, Power Sword and a Jump Pack. The Mordethan are 5 combi weapons, combi flamers, and with a dedicated transport of the Darkwing. Raven Guard Assault Squad, 1 of 2, 20-man Assault Squad, Sergeant, armed Lightning Claws, Raven Talon Lightning Claws, Artificer armor, the Marines bolt pistol chain swords, 4 power swords, and they're all equipped with melter bombs. Raven Guard assault squad 2 of 2, 20-man assault squad, all armed with combat shields, melter bombs. The sergeant has a power fist and artificer armor, and 4 of them have power axes. Raven Guard fast attack choice, 1 squad of Dark Fury Marines, 7 in total, all with their Twin Link Master crafted Raining Line Claws. Raven Guard heavy support, rounding out the assault force, the Fire Raptor with Reaper autocannon batteries and Tempest missiles.
Gents, we're deployed, ready to go.
Yeah, good to go.
Yep, ready.
Excellent. Now, the Mechanicum are missing some units, aren't they, Craig?
Yes, that's right. My black shields are sat in a cruiser in low orbit, getting ready to jump out.
Great stuff. And David, the flyers are due to come on their reserve rolls as normal.
Circling around, ready to come in.
Fantastic. Now, David, you deploy first.
Yep.
And you're going first. Craig, are you going to seize?
No, I'm going to let Dave come at me.
Yeah,
All right.
also.
Excellent. All right, let's have a friendly handshake.
Best of luck.
Yeah, good luck.
Good luck.
Right, Raven Guard, turn 1, movement. Raven Guard, turn 1, movement. The squad on the left with the combat shields and the Praetor have advanced up the field cautiously towards the Castellax. The squad in the middle with the chaplain and the librarian have advanced, again cautiously, up onto the rocks using their jump packs. And finally, the Dark Fury squad has advanced into the corner, ready to move either way depending on when the deep striking happens. Raven Guard, Psychic Phase, turn 1. The Librarian in the 20-man assault squad on the rock has successfully cast Forewarning on the squad, granting them a 4+ invulnerable save. He has also managed to cast his Force Axe, so he's activated that. Raven Guard, end of turn 1. Very pleased that I managed to successfully cast the psychic powers on my squad, and otherwise the army has simply moved up in preparation to attack the Castellax.
Dawn Mechanicum, turn 1, movement phase. So the Archmagos, assessing the battlefield situation, realised that in order to avoid being overrun by the Raven Guard, he needed to back up. And he passed his orders off to the Arch Mechanicum units, but unfortunately they didn't listen, and the entire army charged forward as fast as possible. Dawn Mechanicum, turn 1, shooting. The Magos' personal Castellax unit on my left are firing their 3 multi-mortars and a photon thruster into the Raven Guard assault marines. So first up, 3 multi-mortars. That's 2 hits. Wounded on a 2+. Dave, that's 2 saves, please.
6 up save for combat shields. No, double 1. 2 die.
Next up, we've got the Magos' photon thruster. That's 2 shots, hitting on 2s. 2 hits. Strength 6 against toughness 4, wounded on 2s. That's 2 wounds, that's 2 cover saves, please, Dave.
2 cover saves.
2 saves.
The unit took 2 hits from the photon thruster, forcing a blind check, which fortunately the unit passed.
The Brass Scorpion has targeted a large assault squad on the opposite flank. First up, he's going to fire his multi-shot miniature mega bolter, where he's got 10 shots. He's going to hit on 4s because he's only ballistic skill 3. That's 10 dice. So I'm going to move the 1s to 3s, which leaves him with 5 hits. Now it is strength 6 and they're toughness 3. Wrong, toughness 4. So I'm going to wound on 2s. That is 3 wounds, Dave. Please take your invulnerable saves.
So 3 invulnerable saves of a 4 up. 1 fails to save.
Next up, we're firing the flamers from the claws. It's the same weapon profile as the previous weapon, and we've covered 10 models under the templates. So 10 dice, wounding on 2 pluses. Good roll. Dave, that's 9 invulnerable saves, please, at AP3.
Okay, 9 invulnerable saves. Successful, failed 1.
Final weapon on the Brass Scorpion is his large Demolisher Cannon style weapon. So it landed in the centre, scattered slightly, but still managed to hit 9 models. So, Strength 10, AP2. I'm going to roll my wounds on a 2+. 4 failed. Luck favours the Blood Raven God today. Dave, over to you for invulnerable
Let's see
saves.
if my invulnerable saves are as good as the last shot. So that is 5 invulnerable saves. I failed 3. Not quite as good, but still pretty pleased I managed to get off the psychic power.
Final unit of the shooting phase. The Castellax on my left flank are going to take 2 multi-melter shots at the Dark Furies. Unfortunately, one of them can't see. So, Castellax hitting on a 3+. 1 hit. They are strength 8, so wounding on a 2+. That is 1 save, Dave.
1 cover save for the Dark Furies. Unfortunately, one of the Dark Furies fell to the multi-melter.
Dark Mechanicum, turn 1, assault phase. The only charge this turn is the Brass Scorpion. He's going to make a long bomb charge against the Assault Marines on the left-hand flank. Fortunately for me, he's got 3d6 inch charge range and he needs to achieve a 9. Definitely in. Fantastic news, the Brass Scorpion made a long 15-inch charge and comfortably made it into the Assault Marines. The Raven Guard have elected to use melter bombs to try and bring the beast down, so I strike first at initiative 3 with my 7 attacks in the charge. Weapon skill 3, so I'm hitting on 4s. That's good news, 5 hits out of 7 dice. Strength 10, AP2. 2s to wound. 5 invulnerable saves, please, Dave.
So here's hoping that the Raven Guard psychic powers help them out. Successfully saved 4 of them. 1 Raven Guard fell to the Brass Scorpion's assault. The Raven Guard arming their melter bombs, 16 in total, and striking to hit on a 3+, re-rolling misses with the chaplain. So that's 1, 2, 3, 5 failed, re-rolling for the chaplain. And it looks like all have hit. All 16. The Raven Guard managed to hit with all of them, and they managed to penetrate with 11 melter bombs. So the Brass Scorpion has to make its demon saves.
The Omnissiah protects. And he does.
5 ups, pretty good.
6 go through.
So 6 penetrating hits with +2 on the table because they are 81. The Raven Guard penetration rolls were pretty successful. 6 hull points have been lost. 2 of those were a 6 for an explode, which will give me an additional D3 each. So I'll roll these now.
Boom.
And that is a total of 3 extra, which will kill the Brass Scorpion. So now we get to the fun of rolling for catastrophic damage. But before we get there, the Brass Scorpion gets to make its revenge attacks in the form of Stomp.
Fantastic retaliatory attacks. The Brass Scorpion stomped like no tomorrow, managed to kill 9 Assault Marines, the Chaplain, and the Librarian. However, immediately following this, we need to resolve the catastrophic damage as the beast goes nuclear, and we'll see what happens from there. Following the explosions from the melter bombs, the Brass Scorpion flipped on its back, landed in the valley behind it, and fortunately for the Dark Mechanicum, it only caused a single wound on the Castellax before fizzling out. Over the entire turn, the army advanced rapidly, losing control, being out of control from the Magos, and advanced as rapidly as possible, resulting in the loss of the Brass Scorpion and the being prepared to be assaulted next turn across the field.
Raven Guard turned to movement phase. The Fire Raptor successfully made its reserve roll, flying in to the battlefield to cause some much needed fire support. The assault squad with the Praetor in it moved up towards the Castellax, using its jump packs, fairly sure it's going to make the charge. The Dark Fury squad decided against assaulting the Castellax and has moved back around, ready in preparation for enemy reinforcements. And the much depleted assault squad took the long route round to the objective, jumping down with his jump packs to avoid the difficult terrain. Raven Guard shooting turn 2. The Fire Raptor swooping in, selects its targets. The Avenger bolt cannon is going to go for the Castellax directly in front. The Reaper autocannon battery will also go into the Castellax, with the final Reaper autocannon battery shooting the squad with the Magos. Fire Raptor swoops in, shooting with his Avenger bolt cannon and the Castellax squad, needing 2s to hit due to strafing run. Fortunately, all 7 shots hit, with 3 causing wounds.
Relying on adamantic shielding, take my 5+ invulnerable saves. Unfortunately, all failed, and the lead Castellax is fouled following the explosion in the previous turn.
Next weapon to fire is the Reaper autocannon battery into the Castellax. 4 shots twin linked, 3 successfully hit, needing 4s to wound. 1 successfully wounds.
Thankfully, this weapon is slightly less of a caliber than the previous, and I get to rely on my armor save of a 3+. I still take a wound.
The final weapon firing from the Fire Raptor into the Castellax squad with the Magos. All 4 managed to hit, with unfortunately only 1 wound, which was regrettably saved by the vile Dark Mechanicum. Turn 2 assault phase. The Raven Guard 20-man squad, led bravely by the Praetor, charges the closest Castellax unit, easily making it 7-inch charge.
Seeing the spineless loyalists closing on the Castellax, they open up with all of their weapon systems. Fortunately, everything misses except for the wall of death from the flamethrowers. 11 hits, 10 wounds,
resulting in 2 Raven Guard failing to make to the target. The Raven Guard made it into the assaults. They have elected to use their melter bombs minus the Raven Guard armed with power axes. The Praetor is in a challenge with the Magos. First to strike is the Apothecary armed with a power sword. 3 dice. 1 hits. Needing 4s to hit, 1 hit. Needing a 6 to wound. Fails to wound.
Next up, at initiative 4, is my Castellax. 3 angry Castellax with 3 dice each, striking at 4s. Not the best roll, but we're still going to do this. That's 2 hits, 2s to wound at strength 6. That's 1 invulnerable save, please, Dave.
1 invulnerable save, passed from the combat shields. Initiative step 1, the Raven Guard armed with the power axes. Hitting on 3s. Successfully hit with, we remove the misses. Now needing 6s to wound. Successfully wounding with 3.
In close combat, adamantic shielding provides a 6+ invulnerable save. Save 2, takes 1 wound.
Next to strike at initiative 1, 11 Raven Guard armed with melter bombs, needing 3s to hit the Castellax. Great news, 7 hits, needing 3s to wound. 5 successfully wound.
Relying on the adamantic shielding again, 6+ invulnerable save 5 times. Saves 1, takes 4 wounds.
Also striking in initiative 1 is the Praetor armed with its Thunderhammer in the challenge against the Magos. 6 attacks, requiring 3s to hit, which happily have all hit. Now it's 2s to wound. Unfortunately, only 3 managed to wound.
Fortunately, only 3 managed to wound. I'm going to take these as my 3+ invulnerable save. Takes 2 wounds. Final unit to attack in this close combat is my Magos striking at initiative 1. He's got 3 attacks with his power axe, followed by 2 attacks with his machinator array. Hitting on 4s with his power axe. Mastercraft 1 of them. Still 1 hit. And a wound on a 3+. That's 1 wound on the Praetor. And follow this up with 2 hits from the machinator array, hitting on a 4. 1 hit, wounding on a 3 with shred. 2 wounds at AP2 on the Praetor.
The Praetor, relying on his Iron Halo, saves both hits.
Following 2 wounds from the Raven Guard Praetor, the Magos takes 2 feel no pain saves, which unfortunately he fails both.
The Raven Guard had a successful combat. They won by 5. However, with Fearless being in play from the Magos, it means the combat is essentially a stalemate, and they move up to engage the rest of the Castellax.
Dark Mechanicum, turn 2, movement phase. Started off extremely well, with the 2 reserve units arriving by deep strike and landing exactly where they wanted to go. Over on the other flank, the Castellax advanced forward to try and remove the threats to our objective. Dark Mechanicum, turn 2, shooting phase. 1 Castellax draws his beady eye on the Dark Furies, unfortunately misses with his multi-melter. The remainder of the army double times and runs to try and get in better positions and spread out for the retaliation that's sure to be coming. Dark Mechanicum turn 2, assault phase. The Castellax start at their initiative step of 4, flailing about themselves and manage to disembowel a single Space Marine who falls over dead.
The Apothecary attempts to valiantly inflict some damage with his power sword, however, fails to damage any of the Castellax. Striking at initiative step 1 are the Raven Guard Marines armed with power axes. They manage to cause a single wound on the Castellax,
which I subsequently failed my Atamantic shield save. In the challenge at initiative 1, the Magos gloriously takes a single wound off the evil loyalist Praetor.
The Praetor bravely defies the evil Magus, unfortunately only landing 1 successful wound with the Thunderhammer. The Praetor valiantly strikes back with his Thunderhammer, 5 hits, which unfortunately only resulted in 1 wound, which the Magos saved. The final part of the Raven Guard Initiative 1 step sees the Marines with melter bombs successfully attack the Castellax, inflicting 5 wounds, which resulted in 1 being blown to smithereens, which unfortunately killed one of the additional assault Marines. A wound also carried on to the other Castellax.
At the end of Dark Mechanicum turn 2, which is looking fairly grim for the Castellax, who are still locked in combat with the assault Marines. They're slowly being ground down. However, the Magos is slowly working his way through the Praetor, and we look forward to finishing him off next turn. The glorious majesty of the Omnissiah's works gains a wound back through It Will Not Die on the Magos.
Raven Guard turn 3 movement. A successful reserve roll meant the Darkwing entered the theatre of battle, hovering in from the deployment zone to allow the Mordathan to disgorge and hopefully take back the objective. The Dark Furies advanced towards the newly arrived deep striking Black Shields, while the assault squads remained where it was, anticipating a late run on the objectives to deal with the Castellax. The Fire Raptor advanced towards the Castellax, hoping to bring them down. Raven Guard shooting phase turn 3. The Dark Furies decided to run closer to the enemy, and the Mordathan fire their twin link rending flamers, declaring their fatal strike at the Black Shields. The Mordathan executed their fatal strike, landing 15 twin-linked hits, resulting in 3 Black Shields dying. Unfortunately, none of them were rending. The Darkwing lends its fire support to the Mordathans, targeting the Black Shields, resulted after shooting twin las cannons, an Eclipse missile, and the heavy bolter killed a further 2 Marines, not as effective as I'd hoped. The Fire Raptor lends its fire support to targeting the Castellax, unleashing the Avenger bolt cannon, 1 Reaper autocannon battery, and 2 Tempest missiles into the Abominations, resulting in 3 wounds total. Raven Guard assault phase turn 3. The combat continues between the Castellax and the assault Marines. The Apothecary steps up to the plate and unfortunately does not manage to wound the Castellax.
Then the Castellax, in retaliation, puts 2 wounds onto the assault Marines. However, their combat shields and the Apothecary manage to keep them all alive.
Raven Guard, initiative step 1. The assault squad finish off their assailant, piling in with melter bombs, finally bringing it to the ground. The challenge enters into its next step, with the Praetor savagely striking 4 times on the Magos. Unfortunately, his armour turned it aside and only 1 wounding hit went through, which regrettably was saved.
In retaliation, the Magos steps up to the plate and causes another wound to the Praetor, 1 remaining.
In conclusion, the Raven Guard drew the combat with the vile Dark Mechanicum. Next turn, however, they will be able to lend the full support of the assault squad into beating down the Magos.
What was once the Dark Mechanicum turn is now the Black Shield turn 3 movement phase. The Marauders that took the fire from the Mordathan and the vehicle are advancing to take down the Dark Furies. The other squad of Marauders with the heavy chain blades are advancing to relieve the Magos and butcher the Loyalist scum. And on the other flank, the Castellax bound forward to remove the threat of the Assault Marines on their right hand flank. Black Shield's turn 3 shooting phase. At extreme range, the Magos can just about detect his 2 remaining Castellax taking damage. By manipulating the new sphere, he causes one to self-repair, gaining a wound back. Black Shield's turn 3 assault phase. Across the board, the army leaps into action and charges. In the main combat over here, to relieve the Magos, the Black Shield Marauders charge in, just about making their charge. In the centre, the other squad, the second squad of Marauders, charge against the Dark Furies and attempt to delete that threat. And on the far flank, with a long bomb charge, the 2 Castellax charge against the Assault Marines to delete that threat to the objective marker. So as you can see, the Castellax, with 3 wounds remaining between them, made their long bomb charge against a spineless Loyalist and cut them down to a man, feasted on their corpses, then slowly started moving back towards the objective. The Loyalists failed their fear test, did no wounds on main return, and the Castellax cut 6 of them down all in one go. The Black Shields, with the Chaplain, charged into the Dark Furies to try and take the pressure off. After 20 attacks, 15 hits, 9 wounds, 2 of the Dark Furies are felled.
Dark Furies retaliating against the Black Shields, struck with 15 attacks, successfully hitting with 9, resulting in 6 Black Shields being killed.
In a fury the Raven Guard have never seen, the Chaplain spins about himself with his axe and cuts down all of the remaining Dark Furies and consolidates towards the vehicle, intent on slaughtering that as well next turn. The heavy chain blade Black Shield Marauders close into the large combat with their rag grenades and strength 6 attacks. They swing 33 times. They hit 18 times, causing 16 wounds, and fell 4 of the Assault Marines.
Continuing at Initiative 4, 18 Raven Guard attacks, 10 of them which hit, causing 5 wounds, of which 2 fail their saves. The Apothecary steps up to the plate, finally inflicting a kill with his power sword.
The Marauder Chieftain, seeing the Apothecary slay one of his brothers, steps up with his power fist, but unfortunately tangles himself in his weapon and only manages to kill a single Raven Guard.
The Raven Guard armed with power axes strike 6 attacks, of which 4 hit, causing 4 dead Black Shields. The Sergeant with the power fist at Initiative Step 1 swung and unfortunately completely missed any attacks.
Back to the Warlord challenge. My glorious Magos managed to put 4 AP2 wounds against the Praetor. However, through trickery of arcane nature, managed to save all 3 of them as invulnerable save.
And then, striking back, my valiant Raven Guard Praetor inflicted 3 hits on the accursed opponent. However, only 1 got through his dark technology, causing 1 wound.
This resulted in the Black Shields and the Magos from losing combat by 3 points. However, they made their leadership test. They were never going to run away from Loyalist scum.
The Mordathan leapt back into their assault transport, which promptly spun around, making it good time for the objective on the other side of the board. The Fire Raptor switched into hover mode, turning around, bracketing the Castellax with the hope of knocking the unit down. All other units remain locked in combat. The Darkwing moves flat out in an effort to get closer to the objective and deliver its cargo. The Fire Raptor unloaded all its remaining arsenal, the Avenger bolt cannon, 1 of the Reaper autocannons, and 2 missiles into the Castellax squad, inflicting 3 wounds, reducing the squad down to a single member. The Apothecary starts off the attacks rolling, killing 1 Black Shield. The Assault Marines try and hit with their chainsaw and bolt pistols, unfortunately not managing to kill any opponents.
Striking against the unglorious Raven Guard, the Black Shields with the heavy chain blades managed to strike down 3 of the unlucky people.
Striking at initiative 1, the power axes and the sergeant with the power fist felled 3 Black Shields.
And the Marauder Chieftain stepped up and killed another one with his power fist. On to the challenge.
The Praetor, filled with vengeance, strikes the Magos with 5 attacks, 3 of which successfully wound.
And then he follows up with his invulnerable saves, fails 2. However, tough as old boots, he managed to successfully pass one of his Fiona Pains, and he's still in the fight with 1 wound. The Magos mocks the Praetor with his lust for vengeance, decapitates him in 1 swift movement, turns around with one of his hind legs and decapitates a second Space Marine of the Raven Guard chapter, ending the challenge and winning the combat.
Unfortunately, the Raven Guard lost the resulting combat by 1. However, they successfully held their nerve, passing their leadership test.
The Reaver Lord, sensing the end is nigh, decides to make tracks and find a cave to hunker down in until the end of the fight. On the flank, the Castellax, now out of Cortex controller range, goes feral and charges headlong towards the Fire Raptor in an attempt to eat it. And then on the other flank, the Magos and the last remaining Marauder Chieftain duke it out with the 4 remaining submarines of the Raven Guard. The only shooting left to the Black Shields is the 1 multi-melter shot from the feral Castellax, who fires a multi-melter into the hovering Fire Raptor. He jinks, however, he still manages to blow the autocannon from the left-hand flank. The feral Castellax attempts to charge the hovering Fire Raptor, however, he fails, he does not make the charge in. Next up, we've got the last remaining combat between the Magos, the Marauder Chieftain, and the 4 submarines.
The Apothecary initiates the combat at step 4 by attacking the Marauder Chieftain. However, he fails to cause any damage. The remaining assault marine armed with bolter and chainsword manages to strike him down.
The Magos, at initiative step 1, launches a flurry of attacks and manages to take down and dismember the last remaining power axe in the squad, killing 1 member of the squad. This is a drawn combat.
The sergeant stepped up with his power fist, unfortunately failed to hit with either of his attacks.
End of Black Shield's turn 5. The Raven Guard have killed the last of the Black Shield scoring units, denying them the ability to score the objective marker. On the left-hand flank, the Raven Guard close in with their scoring units approaching the objective. The Black Shield army has 1 shot to try and defend against them, the feral Castellax that's out on the flank on his own. And thankfully, to help the Magos out in the combat, he has scored a second successful It Will Not Die roll, bringing him back up to 2 wounds.
It is all down to the wire. The Legion needs to secure the final objective, so to that mind, the Moidethan have disembarked from the Darkwing, which is swung round to cover the final Castellax. The Fire Raptor, remaining in hover mode, has parked in front of the Castellax with an attempt to bring it down, which will be a difficult prospect since it is jinking. In the combat, the Assault Marines square off against the Magos, attempting to sell their lives valiantly. The Darkwing lines up against the Castellax and unleashes 2 twinning las cannon shots, both successfully hitting and wounding, resulting in an explosion of the final Castellax. The assault finally ends, unfortunately with the Raven Guard being wiped out by the Magos. However, they held him up successfully, allowing the Mordathan to capture the objective, securing 5 victory points.
The Magos continues his advance against the Raven Guard flying vehicles, and the Black Shield Reaver Lord gains his courage and steps out from his cave and decides to join the fight and advances towards the Fire Raptor. The Magos opens up with a photon thruster and an Inferno pistol against the side of the Darkwing and fails to do any damage. The Magos, buoyed on by his previous successes, charges frantically across the battlefield and makes combat with a 7-inch charge against the Darkwing. However, Still hesitant about the long charge, the Black Shield Reaver Lord decides his time is not today and fails his charge. The Magos tears into the side of the Dark Wing, pulling an arm off, pulling a wing off, pulling a weapon off, but does not manage to do enough damage to kill the vehicle. As the sun sets on this battlefield, the Magos is tearing the last remaining vehicle apart, while the Raven Guard secure the objectives.
That's the end of the game. Wow. I really enjoyed it. What an absolute visual feast. We've got the beast of that brass scorpion just running across the table, and then you've got the Raven Guard desperately trying to defend. But one hell of a game, gents.
Yeah, fantastic.
You enjoyed it?
I had so much fun.
Enjoyed it, yeah.
Good.
A bit of a Hail Mary play at the end.
It was, yeah.
Jumping into the vehicle, yeah.
Some desperate measures,
Yeah,
but
but
they worked. Lots of carnage across the board. You know, there was only a couple of flyers and those Mordathan left, weren't there?
Yeah, 5 more Dathan and a crippled Darkwing and a slightly damaged Fire Raptor. That was it.
Yeah.
But, got the job done. And
then obviously the Magos.
Yeah, the Magos and the Chaplain, everybody that counts was left alive on my side. I'll take that as a victory.
It was good. It was good. Talking of victory, let's do the points. Raven Guard. So we'll start with Mechanicum first. Mechanicum did a really great job. They scored 4 in total, and that was 2 for the Onslaught mission, 1 for Warlord, and 1 for attrition total.
Right.
So 4. But the Raven Guard took the day, didn't you?
Yep.
Those Mordathans secured the objective in the Mechanicum and Black Shield's deployment zone, and you got 1 for Onslaught, which put you on 6.
Yep.
So final score, 6 to the Raven Guard, 4 to the Mechanicum and Black Shield. So congratulations,
Thank you.
Raven Guard.
Well done, Dave.
Very hard fought.
Yeah.
Hard fought. It really was.
I was really worried about this game because I was worried about the monitor cannon on the we'll call it a brass scorpion for essential for what it is, and I thought it was going to rip into your Raven Guard and double you out and just destroy you. But you did an amazing job.
Yeah, it was the Librarian getting off that psychic power to give them the 4-up invulnerable.
Yeah,
that helped.
I think if that didn't happen, I think
it could have been a different game.
I think you just would have wiped them out.
Yeah, most likely.
Yeah, because he's a beast once he gets in, isn't he?
Stomp attack.
Yeah, it's Titan level close combat beast.
Yeah. And do you know what? I was a little bit worried about because I don't like to deviate away from Forge World rules. I like to keep things as they are. But this was really fun. You know, the army looks absolutely spectacular. You know, you've got the Blood Sorters look amazing.
Well, thanks very much.
My pleasure. And then with the Brass Scorpion, it just tops the army out. And I thought, what a great opportunity to get it on. And it didn't disappoint.
Oh, thank you.
It did all right, eh?
Yeah, it's just one of my favourite models that Forge World ever produced.
It's good.
Big fun.
And the other part to your army is you've got another 6 Castellax, have you? Or
yeah, back at home, 6 more Castellax.
Yeah,
and I'll be topping it up with some of the new, the Beetle things coming out for 40k for the Black Legion.
Oh yeah,
using those as Vorax.
Yeah, we're into some really interesting times now because we've got Dark Mechanicum in the next book, book 9, book
2024.
Yeah. 10 years time. Yeah, we'll all be old and dead by the time the last book comes out. So there's some real great opportunities with the new 40k range of the new Chaos Space Marines. Is it 10th Legion, Black Legion, is it?
Yeah, Black Legion.
Led by Abaddon. There's some amazing models coming out of Games Workshop, which I think will be prime picking for 30k Dark Mechanicum.
Yeah, exactly.
Because let's face it, as much as I love Forge World, their model release schedule is pushed and pushed and pushed. And the likelihood of them bringing out some Dark Mechanicum stuff, I don't know.
It will be
Not for a while yet.
It's a shame because I think it's really amazing opportunities, but depends when they come out, I guess. But Craig, you've obviously brought back your Brass Scorpion as a talking point.
Mm-hmm.
It did all right.
It kept me in the game.
Yeah.
So my goal for the Brass Scorpion was to knock out one of his large blobs of the submarines, and thanks to its 4 stomps in the first turn, it definitely did that.
Yeah. Yeah, as we've just said, you handmade that forewarning, is it?
Is it prescient?
Forewarning.
Forewarning. Yeah, forewarning. That's it.
Yeah, you wouldn't have survived, I don't think.
That would have tipped it or made it. The assault squad would have been much reduced. I'm confident they would have got into combat, but they only just melter bombed it. I think by like 1 hull point. So, and that would have been game over probably because it would have been so hard to swing the battle back because that entire flank would have gone pretty much. And I'll have nothing left to get employed back. So. And
the Brass Scorpion just would have then come on the other side and just ate the rest of them.
Started eating units.
Yeah. But David, you've brought your assault unit.
Yeah.
Everyone had melter bombs. You brought the tools to the job, didn't you?
Yep.
So I think they did really well.
with the combat shields as well, 20-man combat shields, Apothecary feel no pain. They can tank a surprising amount of damage, which is what held up the Magos and his cattle for pretty much, I think, the entire game. They were just chipping away at each other. Yeah. And they died in the last turn, the last 3 Marines. So they did the job. They almost got there. They almost killed it.
Yeah.
It's that final feel no pain save that saved the boss.
It's so frustrating when you hit him with high strength and low AP on Marines, and they just stick up their combat shields and then they save. It's like, it's so frustrating because that was a slugfest, that combat.
Yeah, it's fantastic. That's why we play close combat armies in 30k. Yeah,
it was really good. And some of the points for me that made me giggle inside, nothing to do with these guys, but we had a sand table and some rocks. It almost imagined that if the brass scorpion was a real living thing, that was kind of the way its fish tank, where you kept it in. It just made me laugh a couple of times. Some friends of mine always make the joke that some of the boards I built in the past that had like a yellowy type signs, like a chinchilla board. So you like a pets at home, you got the chinchilla running around on there. So it was quite funny. So it kind of reminded me of that. But anyway, I'm deviating from the point. Sorry. I really, really enjoyed this game. It was such a visual spectacle, and the black of the Raven Guard against the bright red worked brilliantly for me. I really enjoyed the game. It was so much fun to watch. Now, I know you blokes are going to some events soon, aren't you?
That's right.
So if you've watched the game and you want to have a chat to them or talk about their armies or talk about their list, where can they find you?
So we're going to Spartanats next weekend.
That's
Surrey Spartans.
Great.
Almost pretty much taking this army minus the flyers, so this is kind of a trial run.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm taking my Emperor's Children. Quite a similar list to what Dave took today. It's an assault marine list.
Great. Good stuff. So I think it's Cy that runs it.
Cy Davis.
Cy Davis. He's quite prevalent on the internet. I've seen a lot of his posts and stuff like that. I think his profile is a pink dog or a cuddly toy of some sort. I'm sure that's Cy Davis. But I do a lot of interneting. I do know people through the internet more than I know perhaps in person, I guess. But so if you want to catch up with these guys at that event, please have a chat to them. I'm sure they'd love to talk to you about their list and their experience, hopefully.
Bring whiskey.
Whiskey's good. Whiskey's always good. Now, I have taken a load of photos from this game, so if you want to see some photos, please go to the Facebook page. They will be on there. Craig, I know you're not on Instagram.
No.
Which is fine. But Dave, we know you are as well.
Yeah, generic Dave 82. It's a combination of pictures of little men and my children. But but generally,
nothing unusual.
Nothing unusual there. So real life, fun stuff.
Okay, that's cool. So if you want to see a little bit more about these Raven Guard, then please go and have a look at that. As I said, the photos will go up on the Facebook page. I think we might have you back for a little bit more action. I've got a couple more ideas from some Dark Mechanicum as we sort of move on. I'd love to do like a Civil War type thing. That'd be quite cool. And we're always keen for Raven Guard because we really struggle for Raven Guard. As we mentioned before, black is notoriously difficult to paint. So always looking for Raven Guard. I have booked another Raven Guard player for 3 months' time. He's coming from Scotland, so he's got a bit of a long trek. But you're a little bit closer, which is good. All that remains to say is, gents, thank you so much for coming up to the channel.
Thank you for having us.
Absolute
fantastic.
Pleasure. Absolute
pleasure. You had a good time, yeah?
Really good. Apart from my clumsiness with all the dice.
Fed and watered them for the day, so they're good. We finished at a reasonable time today as well, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
So you get some nice home, nice and fresh.
I've got kids though.
Yeah.
Can we continue a bit longer?
Yeah. We can play another game.
Round two.
We'll do like a Centurion style game. And I really hope you've enjoyed this game. Again, thanks to these guys for making the effort to coming all the way up to the channel. Really appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you in the next game.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Morning everyone. Really hope you've enjoyed the game between Mechanicum and Raven Guard. I'm going to do the build board video for the game you've just seen. Now, of course, remember I build these boards before the guys arrive. So I've only ever met Craig once, and it was very fleeting. And David, I've not met at all. So hopefully you've enjoyed the game. Obviously, I don't know what happened because this is filmed before. But I've been thinking a lot about this board, and I've thought a lot about Craig's list, and he's got obviously he's got the big brass scorpion, which he uses as some fan-made rules, and he's got the blood slaughterers of Khorne, the old 40k. I can't quite, like a demon engine, I think they were, weren't they? And he's using them as Caslax. So the way I see this in my mind is that perhaps it's set on Mars, and the Raven Guard have come in to try and help the civil war in Mars, to try and recover some armor and some allies, essentially. And what we've got here, as you saw, you had my Mechanicum in the middle on this kind of circular dais kind of thing, and then the two forces are fighting over, I guess, immaculate war machines, the vehicles. So they want to kind of capture those vehicles for their own efforts in the war later on. So I can imagine that the Magos that are loyal to the War Master have said, right, the heresy's on, Civil War of Mars takes place, let's have it, sort of thing, and they've released their demon engines from their secret projects that they've been working on. And at the time, the Raven Guard were there to try and reinforce with some suits of armour and some various bits of equipment, and the uprising has happened, and they've joined forces with the Mechanicum to try and defeat the traitorous Mechanicum, I guess, or dark Mechanicum is what it is, isn't it? Of course. To that end, I'm going to build the board as if it's set on Mars. So I can imagine that the loyalist Mechanicum are having a bit of a parade ground. Maybe they've got an important person come along, and they're doing a bit of an arms deal, and they're selling their wares to the wider planetary system. I'm not sure. So they've got all their gear arrayed out in a nice kind of military parade. The Dark Mechanicum have seen this and said, right, we'll have a bit of that. And then the Raven Guard have come in to try and help defend the vehicles that are on parade. So to that end, I'm going to use the big dais that I built ages ago for Shadow War, which is about a year ago now. So it's just a massive 3 foot wide, and it's essentially got the Zone Mortalis tiles. A friend of mine, Nick, managed to draw a very similar designed tile in a program that I've got, and then we're able to digitally cut it out with it's like a vinyl printer, a vinyl cutter rather, but it also cuts 1, 2, 3 mil plasticard. So more on that later. There's going to be some projects of that coming probably toward the end of the year, so some unique terrain and some bits and bobs for that. So I'm hoping to get on with that quite soon. Anyway, so I built this a year ago. It's 3 foot wide, I think. Let's have a quick look. Yeah, 3 foot wide. Essentially, I'm going to have quite high rocks here and here, and in the middle there'll be my Mechanicum Cryos and Cryos Venator. I've got 6. So they will fit perfectly in here, and they will provide the line of sight between the two armies. So this will be quite open. The sides will be quite dense. Might have some cranes here. I don't know. So maybe it's a parade ground. Maybe it's a repair bay. You kind of interpret it whichever way you want. It's just to make the whole thing a little bit more interesting. We'll build up the base with rocks and rubble, and then we'll put a lovely coating of red sand all over the board to kind of blend it all in and cover up. You can see it wobbling here. It's obviously it's warped a little bit, so it's not completely flat. So we'll get rid of all that wobble. There's going to be no buildings in this. It's going to be quite natural terrain and rock. I appreciate that a lot of the boards I've built recently have been with all the kitchen tiles and the dark grey and the black aggregate, I guess, and the ruined buildings. So there's going to be no ruined buildings here. It's just going to be like an open plain. I always imagine like a massive forge world just off to the side. It's like a little parade ground or an inspection ground before the vehicles are sold on, or they're approved, or they go join their respective ranks in the Mechanicum. So that's my plan. I'm not going to talk too much about this because it's a really super simple basic board. I'm here about 7 o'clock in the morning, I think. I've got a cup of tea, which always helps. Very nice, and I have some pastry with chocolate in the middle, so that's even better. All right, I'm going to get started on this board. I really hope you enjoy these videos. Please let me know if you do, and I'll get on with it. All right, here we go. I'd forgotten I hadn't sieved any of the rock out, so I had to sieve or the rock, which took about 20 minutes. Anyway, we're done. First of all, I'm going to solve this issue here. Not cool, that it wobbles. So I'm going to put a nice big rock under here, just to try and stop that wobble, which we've just done. Perfect. Now what I'm going to do is just spread this out, get a nice even layer to try and meet the height of this dais, and then we'll start building the different coloured rocks on top. I'm going to change my mind just a little bit. I was going to have this in the middle, but I don't think it works in the middle, because what I want is, I want quite a large piece here, right in the middle, and I kind of want this off to one side. So I'm going to shunt this all the way over there. Those rocks are really heavy. I'm going to rotate these slightly because I prefer the look of this rock facing that way a little bit more. It's just a little bit more interesting, and I can almost see some Raven Guard infiltrate over this. Maybe, I can't remember David's list whether he's got snipers or not, but I can almost imagine the snipers kind of coming over, or those blood slaughterers just kind of scrabbling over the top to get eyes on the prospective vehicles. So we're just going to try and make an interesting shape here. Hopefully it'll all blend together, so I think it will. I'm going to fill out this middle section so we don't lose too much of the sand down in the crevices. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that, really. I love this large rock formation. I'm probably going to put one just in the foreground in that corner, just to kind of keep it all tied in. Now, I've had to build a lot of rock up because the thickness of this dais is quite thick. It's about an inch. In an ideal world, what I'd probably do is get a load of cardboard, put it down first till it's quite high, maybe an inch height, maybe same height as the dais. And then I put the dice down, draw around it, and then cut around the cardboard, pull the circular piece of cardboard out, and then pop the dice in, and then it'll all be flat, and then I wouldn't need to use the stone for packing this out. I mean, there's two reasons for using the stone. One is for the packing, as I've just mentioned, but also as well, it does get a little bit texture. But if I used the cardboard, that would increase the height, and then I would probably just only put like maybe a couple of handfuls of rock, and then put the sand on top. So I'm only using so much stone because of the packing issue I've got here. So, but I know it sounds ridiculous, but getting hold of a load of nice, clean, flat cardboard is quite difficult unless you go to like you know, these storage places that sell boxes and things. Then you can buy them and then cut them down. But you know, I could use foam core, but I just haven't got any here. I've got some, but not enough to the entire board. I know it's quite cheap at the moment. You can get like 10 sheets for 12 quid or something. You know, it's quite cheap from like Hobbycraft. If you're in the UK, I appreciate a lot of you in America and various other parts of the world watch this, and you probably haven't got a Hobbycraft, but any sort of craft store sell that sort of stuff. Anyway, getting ahead of myself. I'm going to maybe put the generator in, maybe. Definitely gonna have some pipelines. I love pipelines in the desert. Looks good. And I've got a load of crates to go on, and I think they'll work quite well here and here. And then the vehicles in the middle just to break up the line of sight, because obviously we don't want it to be an absolute shoot fest, particularly for the Mechanicum. You know, the Mechanicum are quite famous for bringing a lot of weapons to bear, and although Craig hasn't got huge amounts of firepower, his combat is quite ferocious with those Castellax, so I'm going to try and stop him a little bit and give the Raven Guard a bit of a chance to perhaps move into position or take some shots off, because, you know, Legio Cybernetica lists are really tough because they've got Dominus in there and they can just keep healing those wounds, you know, increase initiative, increase the attacks, and heal the wounds, quite crucially important, and fire twice as well. They've got quite a few protocols to choose from. I'm going to carry on. I'm going to get some crates down and then some pipelines and things like that. Right, I'm not 100% sure what I want, but what I might do, just had a little idea, might pop him there, a little bit uneven, balance it out. No. Might pop him there, and then maybe like a like a repair bay almost, just on the edge there. I think that might work quite well, really. It's about getting it to balance, though. That's the tricky part. I just started adding this pipeline in here, and it didn't really work that well, so I just think it needs a little bit of reinforcing. So all I've done is I've got some of the well, I can't remember what it's called. Sector Imperialis, maybe? No, it's not that called. Anyway, the Shadow War stuff, I guess it is, isn't it? And we'll pop that there like that, just to give it a bit of extra something. Gonna need a little bit in there. And then don't forget, got my little friend to start fixing it as we go. I think the board's nearly there, to be honest with you. I'm really, really pleased with it. Just had a really quick idea. I don't know if it'll work or not, but I'm going to give it a try. As I said, I love these pipelines. I think they're great. So what I might do is I might try and put like a really long one along here. I'm going to pull this out. But what I'm going to do is, because I guess the pipeline will be really important, I'm going to encase it in the barricade set. So I'm going to put it together and then slot that down the middle. And do you know what? It works perfectly. Or I might just use that. Yeah, I think that's a little bit brown, which probably blend in too much to the sand that's going top. So I'm just gonna literally just pop it in like that, and then stick it like that. So for me, that pipeline's really important, and the Mechanicum or whoever built it would probably want to keep it safe. So I'm going to move a lot of these rocks out of the way, start building my pipeline, which conveniently fits beautifully under this rock. So it looks like it's been thought about, like so. I'll get a photo of this and overlay it for you guys to see what I'm doing, or rather see the final result. So they fit beautifully together. I don't know why I haven't done that before, but anyway, that's all right. We can definitely duplicate it. I mean, for me, that just works, I guess the only thing we have to worry about is how it terminates at the end here. But what I might do is I might just put a crater here, so it looks like we could put a tower in there, actually. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. Alright, I'm working this out on the fly, as it were. I really like that. Okay, I think what it does now, though, it doesn't give me an option now to not put the bit in the middle. Maybe. Let's have a little look. Oh. Yeah, it probably works better with this in the middle now. It's a moving feast. I don't quite have control about how it happens. I kind of have an idea, and then I kind of just run with it. Really, that's kind of the best way to get it done, I guess. Going to pull these tabs off the bottom. What they're doing is they're pushing the level of this just above the level of that. So what I want to do is I want it to sit in that groove, or I want it to sit flush, so you'll end up with something like that. So I'm just going to remove these, although they are notoriously a nightmare to get out of. Oh man, I'll come back to that. Okay, I've had to employ the use of a fork. I haven't got a scalpel or anything here, so. It does work quite well. There's a slight gap, but you know, by the time I put the sand and stuff over the top, you know, you're not going to see it. And then there's a massive gap here. But I'm going to put one of the big silos here, so again, you won't sit underneath. All you'll see is that the circle of the cylinder here will just terminate. That'll overlap the side walls and everything up, so you won't see it. It'll be absolutely fine. Okay, that's looking really good. I'm just going to go get the cylindrical tower. Got a couple of options really. You know, we can either terminate in a bunker, which fits beautifully at the end there, and I can almost imagine maybe another one that side. I think it looks really good actually. Or what we might do to keep with the Mechanicum theme, we're going to go with these pieces of train. I love this stuff. It's absolutely spectacular. Want to keep the little outlet there. Covers that up beautifully. Creates some more line of sight, which is great. And then we just connect the we just connect it up. Not quite fitting as I'd hoped. Might have to move this one around. I'm going to move this back ever so slightly just to cover up all of the workings. I'm going to reinforce this edge. There's a little gap here, but I'm just going to reinforce it with some rock. Again, once the sand goes on, you'll never see it. I think that looks quite cool. Gets a bit of height into the board. It's quite flat at the moment. This can move around the back here to fill out the gap. Goes beautifully. Now we've got a bit more stone as well, which is great because we need to build the board up, like I said. And what you'll get here is when I put the sand on, the grey contrast with the red orangey sand, you'll kind of get waves along here, which will look really good. It'll look like it's been built up over hundreds of years, and so it'll work quite nicely. Now, I liked it so much, I'm going to do it twice. Why not? I haven't got quite the exact parts I need to remake it. Like, I don't have the... I can't remember what it's called, sorry. I don't quite have the terrain pieces to go at the bottom. I haven't got quite enough longer sections, so I'm going to use these wider ones, maybe. And just to see what it looks like. I haven't quite got the right parts, so I'm just going to have to bodge it a little bit. Unfortunately, not ideal. But once I put the sand in place, I might just cover the rocks a little bit, and it'll all fit. I promise. Promise. So it does kind of work, and if I'm honest, you'll never see it. So hopefully it doesn't spoil the illusion for you too much. But it does work. Just need to get these lined up. Should really put some magnets in these, you know, just so they click together. I think in a lot of games they get knocked quite a bit, and they move quite a lot, and it's really frustrating. So here we go. So that goes in there. There is a gap, I'm not going to lie, but I'm okay with it. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to fill this little section out. I know it's only minor, but it will make hell of a difference to the look. Particularly this wall just kind of stops into space, which looks really odd. So all I've got is just one of these little corner pieces. Pop that in there. Job done. Backfill it with some stone. Looks way better. And I'm just going to fill this area up with a little bit. Cool. And then just a few sections in here just to fill the gaps, because I've had to use like triangular pieces and square pieces next to each other. There's like a little gap, so we're just going to fill those up ever so slightly with a little bit of debris. Cool, that's it, that's them covered. And now we've kind of got that mirroring. I really like the look of that. I just want to add a little bit more height to the board. It doesn't look quite right for me. That kind of works. I kind of like that, and I like that as well. Just makes more of a permanent fixture to the board and gives it a little bit more height. In an ideal world, if I had, oh no, I have got, which I might come back to in a second. It would be nice to have something here like a big tower, something like that. But I've just realised I've got one of the void shield generators. So what I might do is I might try and flatten this out a little bit more, like so. Fill this gap and then put the big void shield generator on there, and that'll just give it a bit more of a feature, a bit more of height to it, a bit more drama maybe. What I might do is I might use this piece in here. Oh yeah, that's it. That's the badger, as they say. It's not quite. Ah, there we go. There we go. Perfect. Done. So that's nice and flat. That's virtually level now as well. And as I say, once we get the sand on, it'll blend it all in beautifully. I'm going to get the void shield on there, and then it's sand. All right, a couple of ideas for this. I've got some more of this terrain. I've got that bit to go in the middle. I'm just going to lay it on there to see if it works. It's a bit too big. But what I might do is I might position it slightly off center and then get some of the struts down here, or one of the struts rather, to make it look a bit different. So what I might do is it sits better like this. Yeah, it's actually better, to be fair, like that. Yeah, I just need to reinforce this piece in here. I've run out of clips, they keep breaking loads. Oh, I've got a couple here actually, I've got a couple here. Let's see how that looks. Usually I'll just stick a big dollop of duct tape on the bottom just to hold it in position. That works just as well. Okay, we've got it to work. Perfect. Pop that on top. I think that makes a worthy addition. I think that works quite well. And what we'll do is we'll just load it up with some stone just to reinforce it at the bottom. And again, once the sand goes on, you won't see it. Get rid of these two. Right, that is the board done. Well, to this stage. Now I'm going to add the sand. I'm going to be quite liberal with the sand all over the board. I don't want a lot of this grey to show through. I just want it to purely be the dais here and these rocks, and then the other colours will stand out because of the contrast. So I'm probably just going to dump a lot of it on with this container here, and then I'll just sieve a lot of the stuff on top. So that'll be the last thing to do. So I'm going to start adding all the sand and cover up as much of the board as possible. Well, I have to say, that was quite therapeutic there, rubbing all the sand out. It's like being at a Martian beach for the day. Take my shoes and socks off and rub my my toes in the sand. That'd be quite nice. Might be a bit dangerous from all the radiation, but it might be quite nice for a short period of time. So I'm probably happy with the amount that's on the board itself. Probably need to cover up a couple of little spots. A lot of these stones are popping through, so we'll get rid of some of the excessive ones that we don't need. Just fill that hole in there. So I need a little bit more in this corner here. So just backfill that to within an inch of its life. There we go. Worked quite nicely. Put these crates back to where they were, somewhere there, I think. Yeah, looks really great. Can almost imagine that the Mechanicum servitors were out here in the morning brushing the parade ground, so we'll just make it look like they've managed to push back some of the sand. I'd imagine it's quite a relentless task for these servitors, a menial task for them to constantly be pushing the sand back. I'm sure there's a servitor that's just dedicated to sweeping this parade ground or this inspection ground or whatever you want to call it. I can almost imagine a Thunderhawk landing right here. And then models spewing out from the front of the Thunderhawk, which we might do later on. I've got access to a Thunderhawk, so I might try that. That'll be quite cool. Next thing to do now is I'm just going to clear up some of these bigger stones that are poking through. I don't want too many of these. Remember, they were just a filler to get the level up to the top of the dais. So I'm going to get rid of a few of these. And then I'm going to start sieving some of the sand on top over the crates, over this here, blending some of this in. I found a nut and a shaken result there, so that's a bonus, isn't it? All right, so I've got my trusty sieve. I've got a little tub of this, and all I'm going to do, just going to sieve it over the top. You know, we've all been to the beach, and the sand just gets absolutely everywhere, doesn't it? So that's all we're simulating here. I wish I had my airbrush, but it's at home. Been doing tons of painting recently, all terrain for the channel. I've got a really cool load of stuff which I'm working on, so that'll look great. Now this sand, when you sieve it, some of it clumps together and becomes quite blocky, but it's really good because it provides texture for the sand. So you've got real fine sand, and then you've got the lumpier sand, I guess. It kind of collects when it gets a bit wet or some moisture on top of it. And that works really well for me because I can just then liberally spread it across the board, and it gives the board a bit of texture. So I'm going to sieve a bit more sand, get some of that texture, and then I'm just going to distribute it over the top of the board. Alright, so I've got a lot more of that now, so I'm literally just going to Spread it over the board like so, just to give it some texture. That's probably it for me, really. I kind of want to reveal a lot of the texture from this section here. Some of it can be covered in sand. I just want to reveal some of the texture. Yeah, that works. Clean some of that off. Again in here. Yep, just a little bit, just a smidge. A little bit here. And I think it's done for me. That works quite nicely. Got sand all over the place. It's there. It's not good. Well, obviously there's a couple of minor things to add. Barrels, I love barrels, so we're going to stick a load of them somewhere in a minute. But I'm going to get the most important thing over, which is the tanks that they're fighting over. So I'm probably not going to use all of them. I mean, it kind of works, and if you have a look down, it's really going to obscure a lot of those line of sight. Might just bunt them forward just a touch. I still want to give the Castellax room to manoeuvre, but at the same time, I do need to restrict them ever so slightly, and also give the Raven Guard a bit of a chance to come round here, or they might come from the back of the vehicles. I don't know. Depends what the deployment that we settle on. Yeah, I think that's it. I'm going to take a load of photos of the board. As always, I'll do a walk around with the board, so that's no problem there. I quite like it, really. I think it looks all right. I'm going to put some barrels at the front, just here. I was going to use these hatches and put them on like that, maybe sink them into the, or I might just pop them here, you know, just at the side, just as like a little extra bit of detail, maybe. I don't know, just to, looks a little bit odd. I'll probably leave them off, to be honest with you. Anyway, I'm going to fiddle. I might add a few little bit extra, but other than that, the board is pretty much done as it is. I really hope you've enjoyed it. Let's hope the game went really well, which I'm sure it did. Please let me know if you like these board videos. They take a long time to film. I mean, this board's probably taken me about an hour and a half to build. Obviously, I've cut loads of it and sped it up quite a bit, but I really hope you enjoy them, and we'll see you in the next one.